um, there is a particular kind of disbelief that settles into a person when they finally see clearly what they did. Not the soft, manageable kind of regret that fades after a good night's sleep. The kind that sits in the chest like something physical. The kind that makes a person replay a decision over and over, searching for the moment where things could have gone differently, and finding every single time that the moment was theirs to control and they let it slip through their fingers anyway. That is where someone connected to you is right now, Virgo. And today's reading is going to walk you through not just their disbelief, but the full picture of who else was involved in creating the situation they are now trying to understand. Stay with me. This one has layers, and I want every single one to land properly. Let me describe what arrived the moment I opened this energy for you, because the very first impression sets the tone for everything that follows. I felt confusion, not your confusion, theirs. A specific, disoriented quality of someone standing in the aftermath of a decision and genuinely struggling to understand how they arrived there. Not because the decision was complicated in the moment, but because looking back at it now, it makes so little sense to them that they keep questioning their own judgment. How did I let this happen? How did I get this so wrong? These are the questions circling in their mind right now. And Virgo, you are the center of every single one of them. I want to take you through what actually happened because Spirit is being very specific about this. And I think you deserve the full unfolding rather than a vague summary. This person made a choice that moved them away from you. Whether that meant physically leaving, emotionally withdrawing, choosing someone or something else, or simply failing to act when action was needed, the result was the same. Distance was created. A connection that mattered, possibly significantly, was damaged or severed. And the mistake itself did not happen in isolation. This is important. Spirit keeps emphasizing the word involved. And I want to honor that because this was not simply one person making a unilateral, solitary error. There were influences, there were voices in their ear. There were people who shaped the decision in ways that this person is only now beginning to fully see. Let me start unpacking who was involved because this is where the reading gets specific and where I think you are going to feel a lot of recognition. The first influence I am seeing is someone close to this person, a friend, a family member, possibly even a sibling or a parent, someone whose opinion carried weight with them. This person had thoughts about you. Maybe they did not know you well. Maybe they knew you only through what was shared with them secondhand, filtered through someone else's perspective rather than direct experience. And their opinion, whether it was rooted in genuine concern or something more self-serving like jealousy or possessiveness over the relationship they had with the person you were involved with, played a role in pushing things in a particular direction. This influencer planted seeds of doubt, maybe questions about whether you were really right for them, maybe comparisons to someone else, some idealized alternative that seemed easier or more convenient on paper. These seeds took root at a moment when this person was already vulnerable, already uncertain, already not operating from their clearest, most grounded self. The second influence I am seeing is more subtle, and honestly, it is the one that I think carries the most weight in this entire situation. Timing and circumstance. Something external was happening in this person's life when the mistake occurred. Pressure from work, financial stress, a personal crisis, something that consumed their attention and depleted their emotional resources at exactly the moment when they needed clarity and presence the most. And in that depleted state, decisions get made that would never have been made under calmer, more stable circumstances. I am not saying this to excuse what happened. I want to be clear about that. But understanding the full picture matters here because it explains why this person is so genuinely baffled by their own behavior now. They were not operating as their best self when they made this choice. They were operating from exhaustion, from fear, from a version of themselves that was reacting rather than choosing with intention. The third piece of this puzzle involves another person entirely, someone who entered the picture, whether briefly or more significantly, and complicated things further. I am sensing this was not necessarily a romantic rival in the obvious sense, though for some of you watching this, it might have been exactly that. For others, this third person represents something different, a distraction, an opportunity that seemed appealing in the moment, but that ultimately did not have the depth or substance of what existed with you. Someone who offered an escape from the complexity of real connection, the kind of easy, undemanding presence that feels good temporarily, but that does not actually compare to genuine, mature love. This person is now looking back and seeing clearly that whatever pulled their attention away from you was, in retrospect, significantly less than what you offered. The comparison, once they actually sit with it honestly, is not close. And that realization is part of what is fueling their current disbelief. Does any of this feel like it is matching your own situation, Virgo? Were there other voices, other people, other circumstances that complicated what happened between you and someone significant? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear how this is landing for you. I want to slow down now and talk about what this person is experiencing internally, because the title of this reading specifically points to their inability to understand how they made this mistake, and I think that internal experience deserves real attention. This is someone who is replaying specific moments, conversations they had with the people who influenced them, decisions made in haste, the specific instant when they chose silence over honesty or chose to walk away rather than work through whatever difficulty existed between you. They are examining all of it now with a clarity that simply was not available to them in the moment, because hindsight has a way of stripping away all the noise and confusion that clouded their judgment at the time. And what they are seeing, now that the noise has cleared, is how unnecessary the mistake actually was, how avoidable it was, how the influences that pushed them toward this decision were, in retrospect, not nearly as significant or trustworthy as they seemed at the time. I am being shown something specific about the friend or family member I mentioned earlier, the one whose opinion carried weight. This person's credibility is starting to erode in the eyes of the one who made the mistake. As time has passed, as the consequences of the decision have become more apparent, this person is beginning to question why they gave so much weight to an opinion that, looking back, seems poorly informed or even self-serving. This matters because it means the influence that originally pulled them away from you is losing its grip. The voice that once felt convincing now feels less reliable. And as that voice loses power, the clarity of what was actually true, what actually mattered, what actually deserved their loyalty and attention is becoming more visible. Let me speak to the other person now, the distraction or alternative that entered the picture. Spirit is showing me that whatever this person offered has not provided the depth or satisfaction that was expected. there is a flatness to that connection, a sense of something missing that becomes more pronounced the longer it continues. This is producing a specific kind of grief in the person who made the mistake, not just missing you, though that is present, a grief over their own judgment, a recognition that they traded something real and substantial for something that, in comparison, feels hollow. This recognition is uncomfortable, and it is part of what is driving the disbelief described in this reading's title. Inhale with me for a moment, Virgo. I want to address something important here, which is what all of this means for you and your own healing, separate from whatever this person is currently experiencing. You do not need their disbelief to validate your own worth. You already know somewhere inside yourself what you brought to that connection. Their realization, while significant, and while it may eventually lead somewhere meaningful, is not the source of your value. It is simply confirmation of something you already understood about yourself. I want you to hold that distinction carefully, because there is a difference between receiving someone's eventual recognition as a pleasant confirmation and needing it as proof that you mattered. You already know you mattered. This reading is simply showing you that they are finally catching up to that same understanding. Let me speak to what comes next, because Spirit is showing me movement, not stagnation, in this situation. This person is approaching a point where private reflection is no longer enough to contain everything they are feeling. The disbelief, the regret, the slow unraveling of understanding exactly who and what influenced their decision, all of this is building toward some kind of expression. For some of you, this means they will eventually attempt contact, whether through a message, a call, or some other gesture meant to open a door that they closed. For others, this process may remain entirely internal for a while longer. Not every realization immediately translates into action. Some people need more time to fully sit with what they understand before they feel ready to do anything about it. I want you to hold space for both possibilities without attaching your peace of mind too tightly to either outcome. I want to talk about the involvement piece one more time, because I think it deserves a final, clear summary before we close. What happened was not simply about you, and it was not simply about them either. It was a convergence of outside opinions, personal stress, and a distracting alternative, all arriving at a moment when this person was not equipped to filter through the noise and protect what actually mattered. None of those external factors excuse the outcome, but understanding them gives you a fuller, more honest picture of what actually occurred, rather than a simplified story where the mistake feels random or inexplicable. It was not random. It had specific, identifiable causes. And now that those causes are becoming visible to the person who made the mistake, real understanding is finally beginning to take root. As I bring this reading toward its close, I want to leave you with something grounding. You do not need to chase clarity from someone who is still in the process of finding their own. You do not need to rush forward to fill whatever gap their realization might eventually create. Let them sit with their disbelief. Let them trace back through everyone and everything that influenced this mistake. Let the process unfold on its own timeline, because real understanding cannot be rushed without losing its depth. In the meantime, continue being exactly who you are. The version of you that they are only now beginning to fully appreciate has not gone anywhere. It is simply waiting, patient and intact, for whoever is ready to truly see it. If this reading resonated with you today, please share it with a Virgo who might need to hear this right now. And Let me know in the comments if any part of this story, the outside influence, the distraction, the internal disbelief, felt familiar to your own experience. I read every comment and I carry your stories with genuine care long after this video ends. Until next time, Virgo. Their understanding is catching up to a truth you already knew. That is not your job to finish. It is simply confirmation of what you always were.